So in this session, I'm delighted to introduce Jo from Data Bubble. Now, Jo is a data expert, and we talked about how we're going to inspire our salespeople on the Yorkshire Sales Sprint with regard to, the value of data. And one of the things we talked about in the run-up to this is that busy salespeople often struggle to hit the targets consistently, and that's ups and downs and all sorts of things that we all get used to. And the value of a business is now more directly linked to their data than it's ever been. Why do Google and YouTube buy competitors? And the one big reason is the value and the accuracy of their data. It's kind of like the new business currency or the new business gold. So utilizing data is a great way of cutting out time, chasing your tail, and freeing up more time for you to sell. So it adds value to your business. So let's discuss all things data, and welcome to the Yorkshire Sales Sprint, Joanne Clayton of Data Bubble. Jo, welcome.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting me, Nick. Much appreciated.
You are more than welcome. It's Russell and I's pleasure to have you on board. So we're going to start with some questions and just discuss really kind of the whole concept of this. Why is data important in the sales environment? Then why is it that the asset that it needs to be for salespeople?
Well, effectively, if you've got no customers, you've got no business. And you need information regarding your customers, which includes not only the company name, the address, the telephone number, and the person within the company, but also additional information. So, for example, website information, as well as then the amount of employees that are actually in there, because all this information adds and builds up your customer, and you actually then get to know who your customer is.
Okay, well, you got customers who are your existing connections and your existing sort of people who are spending. What about your target market then in terms of data? Why is data important for doing targeted activity?
Absolutely. Once you actually know who your ideal customers are, you can then create what's called a profile. And again, I think some other people call it a persona. And basically what that is, it's who you love to work with. When you actually set up in business, you actually start to attract people. And once you actually start to attract people, you know who you are, and you start to work with people, you then get into a business relationship, and you then start to know who your ideal customers are. And once you actually have all the additional information, you can then turn around and say, right, okay, I like to work with marketing companies. They tend to be around about 20 to 50 employees. And once you actually know that business persona, you can then turn around and say, right, okay, if I'm actually working with that particular industry, I can now start to work with other industries that are exactly the same, and then start to actually either target other companies that are like that, whether it be networking, whether it be buying data, whether it be on LinkedIn. At least you're then targeting your ideal customer.
I think it's fair to say that when you start a business or you start a new job in a sales role, that you tend to be a bit more scattergun at the start, don't you? You might have an idea of what you want to do, but in some cases you'll take whatever comes across, and then you find that your data might initially, after the first sort of tranche, be a little bit all over the place. Do you see that often when you go and work with businesses?
Absolutely. I mean, there's sometimes that people will come to me and turn around and say, who do you think I should be working with? And I'm there going, what? and the thing is, it's not just about, it's then, if you're honing in and targeting exactly who you want to speak to, you then not only understand their business, you understand their challenges, but you're also then getting your message right, which means that you communicate and building a rapport up straight away, quicker than a scattergun approach. So you're saving money.
You're saving money because you're saving time, and you're actually saving a bit of energy as well, because it's quite hard putting a sales campaign together. And whether or not we agree in terms of mass e-shots or whether we do it more subtly with 30 or 40 really sweet spot targeted customers and clients and prospects. Either way, you've got to put a bit of work in, haven't you? And you can't shy away from that. So let's talk about targeting prospects, okay? What steps would you say you would recommend someone to use using data as the benchmark for it? How would you recommend people prospect through for, you know, new customers and new prospects then?
Yeah, first of all, as I say, I mentioned getting your profile right or your persona right. Know exactly what industries, what location. So industries, location, who you need to speak to within the company. Again, is the company size correct?
Can I just interject on the who you want to speak to? Because I do quite a bit of work around this, and
Yep.
you know, it's often people don't know where to start, particularly in a bigger company. They'll say, I don't know which job title I should be targeting. And, you know, my view is if you're targeting a manufacturing company and you don't know where to start with the ops director. And if you're starting with a sort of corporate and you don't know where to start, maybe start with the commercial director. Now, those two job roles don't necessarily make the decisions on what you might sell, but they are probably finger in the pie, available to, you know, see what's going through the business operationally and commercially, and may well be a helpful conduit for you. So, you know, job role and job title and targeting people on that basis, I think is really, really important. And some people just do a scattergun approach, or just approach any, you know, I've got a name, we'll go with that. But
Yeah.
they don't do anything about that. They don't do anything about sort of making something relevant or personal to that job title. And the job title itself is a potentially critical field, isn't it, in your data?
Absolutely. The other thing is that, like you say, Nick, they're influencers. They may not make the final decision, but they can actually influence. So it really then depends on what size of company you're talking about. If you're talking about, say, like companies from 1 to 15 employees, yeah, the managing director may be, or the business owner, may be the right person. But if it's an IT project that's worth millions, then you've got IT managers, IT directors, as well as then the finance person that's actually involved, as well as then potentially purchasing, as well as then your managing director. So yeah, again, for me, as a salesperson, it's not just about targeting one person. It's then building up the rapport with other influencers within the company.
So if you're looking at a CRM sort of customer relationship management system,
Yeah.
and you're looking at building a profile of that company, what you're saying then is it's not just about, you know, Joe targeting Nick Bramley. It's Joe looking at IMPACTUS Group as a company.
Yep.
Who are the people in there who are of influence and relevance, or decision making or decision influencing? And then you're building like a really multi-level profile of that company, aren't you, I guess?
Very much so. And again, all that, the thing is, the final say off might be the finance director, or the final say might be the managing director. But at the end of the day, if your service impacts other aspects of the business, then there are other influencers, definitely.
Yeah, one of my things I talk about is building a network of champions, and that
Yep.
they may well be the service users. And I talk about it as the man or the woman on the tools. You know, if you're selling an industrial, I don't know, whatever it might be for a manufacturing company, let's say it's a high pressure cleaning solution for a manufacturing company randomly. The person who uses that product is the person internally. It might be an engineer, might be a factory manager or whatever, and they may well be the person who says, this is the best bit of kit I've ever had. It's great. It saves me time. It saves me money. It saves me effort. They're not going to sign the budget off, but you need those people to like your product and like your service and enjoy the relationship that you've got. Because what if your commercial director leaves, or what if your finance director moves on? You've got no one fighting your corner on that basis. So, you know, it's building a spider's web, isn't it, of connections within that kind of organization, really. Okay.
Completely agree with you, Nick.
Yeah. You mentioned on our notes before the session about renting a list. What the hell's that about?
Yep. With regards to data, we provide data for marketing, so that's telemarketing as well as then email marketing. But at the end of the day, what happens with regards to lists is that you actually rent the list. You rent it for a period of 12 months, and during that time, you are able to contact that company. If that company then becomes a customer, or turns around to you and gives you consent to keep the details on your database, or otherwise turns around to you and say, right, okay, can you give me a ring in 6 months' time? Then that record effectively becomes yours. If say, like, for example, you've got a prospect list of 10,000 and 1,000 don't actually interact with you at all, then that effectively has got to be deleted from your database.
Okay, is that all to do with GDPR compliance and stuff then?
It's how lists, it's how lists have always been. It's before GDPR, but again, GDPR does come into it.
Is GDPR a sales prevention department?
No, it's following the rules, Nick. That's all it is.
Have you met me? Isn't it easy? Isn't it easier to seek forgiveness and ask permission? What's the downside of GDPR breaches?
The downside of GDPR breaches are that you do actually get fined. But having said that, I think it's around about 4% of your turnover. Having said that, the ICO will guide you and help you along. How much? Who knows? Luckily, I've not been in that situation. However, the ICO do turn around and say that they will help you and guide you along to comply with the rules.
Okay.
That's what I would say, is complying with the rules. And to be fair, yeah, it's hit my business to a certain degree, but at the end of the day, we've got to get over it, and we've got to work with it.
Okay, and it's not a risk worth taking, is it? And like you say, the rules are there for the reason. I think the key to GDPR is, originally, it strikes me, it was brought in to stop, unscrupulous sellers, getting hold of your data and bombarding you with spam and all that kind of thing. So, it's had a good effect on that. My inbox is certainly a lot less full of stuff that we would have had previously. So let's talk about your prospect list, whether you've rented it or you own it, you've built it yourself.
Yeah.
How do I use it day to day? If I'm a sales professional, how much time should I be spending looking at and analyzing and managing my data? Because I know in a lot of sales offices, if people are not perceived to be on the phone or perceived to be smashing an email out, someone, a dinosaur sales manager, more often than not, by the way, is looking at them going, "You're not very busy." So, data for me is essential, but what's your view on, how do I use it effectively? What should I be doing day to day?
I agree with you. My first sales job, if I wasn't on the phone or picking up the telephone, my manager used to come round and rap your knuckles.
Oh,
he
wow.
used to hit your knuckles with a ruler.
Joe, you don't look old enough to have been going to school in 1964, but
that's how it felt. But yes, I had a dinosaur of a sales manager, and if you weren't on the phone, then you actually got a rap on the knuckles. I've got some really bruised knuckles. But the thing is, for me, it's about taking time out to review and research your client. Because the thing is, there's not worse than hearing a telephone call from somebody that turns around and says, "Hello, so what is it that you actually do at Data Bubble?"
Yeah.
Excuse me? How unprofessional is that? You don't know who you're phoning. You haven't got a clue on what to do. How the heck are you going to help me? So as far as I'm concerned, that few minutes that I spent researching that customer, looking at the website, looking at potentially how you can help them, looking at potentially the challenges that they may actually have, before you actually do a telephone call, will actually help you. Because not only will it help you be able to then speak to the client effectively, it'll help you build up rapport instantly. Because the thing is, you're already prepared. You know exactly who the company are. You know whether it's a website company. You know whether it's a printer, or you know exactly who you're looking to speak to within that company, and you know what potential problems that they do actually have. So that few moments researching that customer before you pick up that telephone call is valuable. Even if you do actually just get through to the receptionist and you can't get through past the gatekeeper, or the person that you want to speak to isn't in, it saves you from looking an idiot, basically.
Well, I'm going to give you a couple of stories. One quick story. I was working with an IT company about 4 or 5 years ago. They had a young lad, 19, maybe 20 at the oldest, first sales job, and he was struggling to get any sales. So I went in to see him, And I said to the MD, you know, I'll work with him on a one-to-one basis. So first question I said, how many phone calls? How are you getting on with your target? He said, I'm smashing my phone call target.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean? So I'm smashing my phone call target. So how many phone calls a day do you make? He said, 120. And he was saying, you know, my name's John. Do you want some IT? No, put the phone down. My name's John. Do you want some IT? No, put the phone down. Smashing his telephone target, making no sales whatsoever. He then started doing 25 calls a day, researched calls, you know, really knowledgeable, what I call first calls, not cold calls. The MD was having a bit of an epi about, you know, he's not doing enough calls, but funny enough, he was starting to get sales because he was learning about the customers and he was learning about the kind of opportunity to speak and engage. And I also got him looking at the previous notes from the calls as to whether the timing was right, etc., etc. Quick observation on the gatekeepers. I'll give you a quick tip on this because I do a lot of telesales training. And one of the things I say to people is the more information you give someone at the gate, the less chance you've got to get through. So if you go, my name is Joanne, I'm calling from Data Bubble, I'd like to speak to, is he in? The answer is, who are Data Bubble? I don't think we work with you. What's it about? It'll run rings around you. So I always just say to people, use your first name and surname, use their first name and surname and say thank you. So you go, good morning, it's Nick Bramley for Joanne Clayton. Thank you. That's all you say. Good morning, Nick Bramley, first name, surname. For Joanne Clayton, first name, surname. Thank you. Not please, thank you. And hold your breath. 60% of people who will challenge you at the gate have got nothing to challenge you on. If you hold your breath, you'll hear them gnashing their teeth and they'll end up going, oh, reluctantly they'll put you through. So that's just a little tip that came out from that conversation, really.
Excellent.
So you mentioned about personalizing your messages and you mentioned about getting into the ribs a little bit of understanding the business. Talk to me about your sort of view on a sales campaign. It's therefore not mass, is it? It's selective. It's you know, personalized. What kind of things are you trying to get into there in terms of varying your contact methods and personalizing your messages?
Very much so. Again, people don't buy from one email. I'm not being funny, but they just don't. So sending one email and expecting lots and lots of mega inquiries. Yeah, I wish.
Never gonna happen.
So as far as I'm concerned, it's not just about sending one email. And again, it's not sending one email, expecting sending another email, and then expecting sending another email. It's about mixing it up. It's about having a proper approach. And again, you'll know this, Nick. It's about being able to turn around and say, right, okay, yeah, I want to introduce the company. So that may be an email, but you know what? It may be a letter as well. Because if your product is worth £10,000, why the heck not send a personalized letter to that company? Because the thing is, they will also remember how many emails just go click, delete. But the thing is, people buy in different ways. I like to see things. People like to hear things. People like to touch things. So therefore, if you actually do a telephone call, an email, as well as then a letter, you're actually contacting people on the different sensories, but you're also turning around and saying, right, okay, an email can be deleted, a letter can be put on one side. I know I've got letters here that are actually on my desk. They're kept. So therefore, it's not just about contacting people in one way. It's about contacting them in different ways because people buy in different ways and they absorb the information in different ways.
And I'm sure Nigel's going to add into that, you know, the use of LinkedIn as a tool on that basis. Another very quickie was one of my clients about 10 years ago was struggling to get past any way into this particular organization, and it was Iceland, the frozen food people, and he was doing some packaging work for the end of aisle stuff. He was designing the cardboard temporary stands for the end of aisle and stuff. He'd been very successful elsewhere, couldn't get through to the purchasing manager at all. You know, gatekeepers, faxes, emails, carrier pigeon, nothing worked. So he sent a coconut in a box with his business card, next day delivery for 10 o'clock. And basically at 10:01, he rang up and he said, I'd like to speak to whatever the name of the guy was. I said, who's speaking? Said, tell him it's the coconut guy.
Yep.
So he basically said, I've sent you coconut. We said, why is that? He said, well, you're a hard nut to crack. I thought I'd just demonstrate it. And he got into the big, and 6 months later, he was working with Iceland. I'm not saying you send coconuts and go to Morrison's and buy every coconut in the store this morning, but you've got to sometimes be a bit creative, but it starts with data. It starts with who the hell are you targeting? Why should they be interested? And what method are you going to get at them?
Yep.
So talk to me about other things we should consider then. You've put a little note to me about the value of call notes and the value of CRM notes. What's that about from your viewpoint?
Personally, I love my CRM. I have always loved my CRM. And the amount of salespeople that I know that just don't complete a CRM or don't complete the notes baffles me. I'm not being funny. I can't remember every single call that I make. I can't remember every single customer that I deal with. So therefore, to actually have a CRM that I can turn around and go, oh yeah, they actually purchased so-and-so last time, or they turned around to me and said, right, okay, they're not ready at the moment, but give them a call at end of April. If I don't have a CRM, and if I don't actually note that on my CRM or not diarize that information, it's an opportunity that's potentially lost.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that my sales director that used to rap me on the knuckles, he used to always turn around and say, make sure you capture the date of birth, so their birthday, the anniversary, and their children's names, and ideally their birthdays. So then you can actually send either an email or a card, because that really cements and builds rapport. And if you haven't got, I can't remember everybody's date of birth. I can't remember everybody's children's name, etc. But if you've got CRM and you can record that information, then it's a valuable tool.
I had a situation last year. One of my clients had a son who was awaiting his A-level results, and
Yep.
She wasn't convinced he put the work in, and he wasn't convinced he put the work in. But I knew A-level results day was coming, and I made a note of that. And on an A-level results day, I pinged her a note and said, how did he get on? She went, he actually did really well, and he's going to Leeds Uni. He was from Leeds, and she went, I'm a bit disappointed he's not going further away. But we had a really good conversation about her son with his A-level results going to uni, and then started working again with her on the basis of we rebuilt that rapport based around something completely irrelevant to business, but showing an interest. Now, it is about taking that time to get to know them. She was an existing client that we hadn't done any work with for a while because we hadn't got an opportunity to work together, but the conversation came up about kids at A levels and pressures of being a parent and all that kind of thing. So Joe, that's been really, really interesting. Give us a good insight. The thing I'd say to salespeople is, if you work somewhere with a CRM and you're not using it, you're absolutely killing yourself in terms of opportunity spotting. I've worked with loads of sales teams where I'll go in and go, oh, well, Trevor uses it, but James doesn't. And Jane sort of uses half of it. Well, I'm not being funny. If you're all not using it properly, it's a pointless waste of time. It's either all or nothing. And I've made it mandatory, and I've actually made it in some cases a sort of a disciplinary issue if you're just not bothering, because there's no evidence of doing any work. There's no evidence of the output of that work, and there's no forward pipeline, is there? So it's really, really, really important. And it's not admin. Salespeople go, oh, it just sounds like a lot of admin. If your CRM system is clunky and takes ages to get a better CRM, there's dozens out there, and most of them these days, web-based, dead easy, simple, effective. Go for it. So there you go. Thank you. Have we got any questions, Russell?
Just the one from Debbie Jackson, just regarding, should all businesses register with ICO, Joe?
It depends on the business. If they're keeping and storing information, such as the company names, addresses, telephone numbers, then yes, they are. And that includes, believe it or not, business cards. So if you've got a stack of business cards, that's a CRM, that is actually a CRM. And so therefore, yes, they do actually need to register. But if you don't keep information, so for example, if you're a shopkeeper and people come in and buy information, buy things for you, then no, you don't with regards to that. However, if they're keeping their suppliers' information on a CRM system, then yes, they would need to. So it's about storing the information.
So Russell, your Rolodex,
yep.
since 1987, mate, that needs to be registered with the IOS.
You're joking. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, again, Rolodexes are effective. They're a database. It's a
I'm
database
joking.
of information.
I was joking about a Rolodex.
All right.
I have to explain that to some younger listeners and viewers, but never mind. Okay. So Joe,
Just one last question. Sorry, just one question. Just regarding CRMs. Any recommendations, Joe?
Personally, I have gone through lots and lots of CRMs. I've actually known the bog standard basic ones, and I've actually known the highly complex ones like Hootsuite or Infusionsoft, or I think it's called Keep now. That it depends on your business. And the thing is, it depends on the priority of what you actually want your business to actually do. So for example, if you're just wanting something that's easy, then ACT, for example, is just bog standard, really great, easy. However, if you're wanting then to do email marketing and strategies and stuff like that, then you're looking at ActiveCampaign, Hootsuite, or sorry, HubSpot. You're also then looking at, as I say, Keep. I personally have looked at CRM systems and I write a list of what's important to me. And then I turn around and say, right, okay, which CRM system is important and which actually hits that note? Because the thing is, there's so much about, there's so many that are free, and there's so many that can do lots of stuff which you don't actually need. And
the only thing I'd add to that, we need to finish there because we've got a second speaker and timing is look at what I call clunkability. You know, is it easy to use? Do you have to repeat loads of stuff? If it's not easy to use, you have to repeat loads of stuff. It can't give you the reports you want. That's not the CRM for you. So Joe, thank you for that. Hope the audience have enjoyed that. We're going to stop that for now. We've got a second speaker introducced. So thank you again for being a guest on the Yorkshire Sales Sprint, Joe.
No problem. Thank you.